Jeff Cohen with Sea Level Roundtable and the book Countdownable. And I am so appreciative of my guest today. So, Scott Ferguson runs this amazing podcast. He invited me to be on with him. And he is one of the most positive and direct people I know. He's a veteran that has served 6 times on 6 tours, and he coaches CEOs. He's got his own real estate business. He's got such a hand and a handle into the world of people that, like, it's impossible for me not to talk with him about this Gallup 2022 State of the Workplace report. So, Scott, welcome to the show. I want to thank you for joining me today. What did I miss about your experience in your life that you want to make sure people know?
I'm so bored to go, just kidding. This sucks. No, it's no, you thank you for that gracious introduction. I'm super blessed. Thank you for having me, Jeff. We did, I think it's episode 321 on our show here at Time to Shine today, and just absolutely just rock the mic and drop some serious knowledge nuggets about failing forward, and how you as a great coach, you get a clear path to where they want to be, and it was just a fun conversation, and I'm just super humbled that you're inviting me on here. This is amazing.
Oh man, you shouldn't be humbled. I'm the one to have you. So okay, great. So we have the humble tour today. Perfect. Well, listen, we're here to talk about Gallup's 2022 State of the Workplace report. And in the next about 20 minutes or so, we're going to hit on a couple of really key topics. And Scott, I'd love to hear, like, you talk to CEOs and C-suite executives all the time. And, what's the take that you're getting about their teams and their employees and the mindset of where they're at today?
With this being 48 hours from this thing that I fought for my country for the whole election and stuff like that, it's there's a lot of people on edge, the fear in the future a little bit right now, and with that, it not only does it unleash mental, but it's unleashing a lot of physiological things happening to people with their body, and they getting away from movement, they're getting away from what they really want, and they're talking themselves out of what they want because they're so frozen in fear. And that's what I'm seeing with and that doesn't just include the C-suites. I mean, that doesn't just include employees. That's the C-suite people as well, that I'm blessed to be able to help level up. And I'm just seeing a very uncertain time, uncertain attitude, a lack of really getting after it and wanting to improve, every aspect of the business that they're working for, or even, their personal lives. So I'm just seeing a lot of that, for lack of a better term, deer in headlight look right now.
So it kind of sounds to me like what you're hearing and what you're seeing inside of the relationships that you've got sounds like some concern, and it's almost debilitating to some people. Exactly. Where it keeps them from moving forward.
Right. Exactly.
And I know, since we're 2 days away from the election, like, there are a lot of people, and it's very polarized in our society today about, am I Republican? Am I Democrat? Do I lose this? Do I get that? How do you see that affecting the people that you're coaching? How do you see that affecting their teams?
A lot of the coaching conversations that I'm having right now, it's a huge thing. November 8th, it's going to happen. And I just noticed, so many people have a foot in the past, a foot in the future, and they piss all over the present, right? And, they're sitting there, and with that happening, they're looking in the rearview mirror there, and oh my gosh, this stuff has happened for the past 24 months or whatnot. And they look in the future and they're just not sure. So a lot of the conversations are really based on living in the now. If you're in that car and you're looking at a rearview mirror, you can't live there, and you can't live in the windshield. You got to operate the car. And so that's what we really stay present. And again, I'm not a consultant. I'm a coach, because there's people like you that have forgot more about business than I will ever know. But I have a really good knack of conversation and asking the questions, because I believe that everybody knows what they want, but they just don't know how to talk themselves into it, right? They know what they want, but they just don't, because they're frozen right now. They're frozen by fear. And for me, I love it, man. It's a fantastic conversation. And I myself have 5 coaches. So I'm that person too, in front of my coach.
Right.
So that's what I'm really seeing.
Well, listen,
A lot of fear.
well, there's definitely something really key about having a coach, right? Like you've got 5, I've got several, 1, 2, 3, 3 I count on, and a group that I count on. So I know the value of it. But what I think I hear in what you're saying is it's not necessarily about the coaching, right? It's about the ability for people to have emotional awareness and intelligence.
Right.
And we can really be book smart. I know a lot of people that are very book smart, but when it comes to actually working with people, and I think this is where that Gallup report hits on some really key topics that you're not going to notice nearly as much when you're talking about IQ versus when you're talking about EQ, right? And let's take a look at a couple of those, because you and I were talking as we got prepped for our meeting today and sharing with people. And so there are 4 daily negative emotions that Gallup polled for. And what they found in these 4 is that they're actually growing, and they've been growing over the last 10 or 12 years. And so the 4 that they were tracking were stress, worry, anger, and sadness. So Scott, I'm curious, which one of those stands out the most to you as something you notice when you're in coaching sessions or when you're talking to people that are in business?
Worry. For me, 100% worry, because they're unsure about what's happening. I mean, luckily I have my coach that regurgitated to me that 90% of things you worry about don't happen. I worry about all these things and just never happen. So I've really been able to be coached over that hump. But I'm just seeing, I mean, stress. You have stress no matter what. It's going to go on in your day, whether you're putting yourself through a rigorous exercise routine or sitting down worrying about something that probably won't happen. Anger, that's kind of more of a one-off ish versus the amount of people that are stuck out of those 4, worry. I mean, worry can lead to all of the other 3. And worry.
No, I totally get that. Sure. Well, it's funny. People can be consumed by any of them. It's almost like you reach a point where there's so much of it because you're getting so many inputs from so many people.
Right.
I mean, just look at all the social networks that are very polarizing about politics right now because there's an election. But even if you're outside of the election, there's always something we can worry about.
Oh, absolutely. It's still going to be there. Right.
Right. So, what do you tell people when they're in worry mode that has them move to action? Because one thing I'm really clear on is that you can be worried, or you can be angry, or you can be sad. But if you just sit and dwell in that without taking an action, all that's going to happen is you're going to stay in that.
Right.
You're not moving forward. So what are some actions that you see people can take when they're experiencing worry?
The biggest action that I try to, again, I'm a question asker, right? I don't consult at all. My biggest end goal is to provide movement in their life through powerful questioning, right? And then feeding off and unpacking what, find that deepest worry, because the worry can be all the election, but it's really deeper than that. And just unpack. And then once we find that, because I'm a big believer that anybody's issues or quote unquote problems that they have reside in them, but so does the solution. And once we get everything unpacked and peel that onion down, we see the base of the worry. And it could be, you know, something happened in their childhood, that really stems into that worry. And let's unpack that and then go deeper. And then we find out the action that would make sense for their situation of worry, and then have somebody in their life that will hold them accountable, right? And that to the actions that they're going to take. And then from there, there's a follow-up sequence within my coaching programs, that we really dig deep, really deep. And a lot of my clients will get frustrated with it, but I just know that there's something that's way underneath that, because when my coach did it to me, I mean, it dug down to this 8-year-old situation that I had in my life that was like, this is where everything stems from. It was the craziest thing. And then once I was able to take action on that, forgive that, I believe forgiveness is giving up the hope of a better past, right? And getting that, and then start working forward with action. And then we start building in morning routines, and we start building in we're a big believer in, that we're still going to be the same people 5 years from now, except for the people we meet in the books we read, right? So, make sure that what you're taking in is going to work towards the actual items that we have. So
that's a really great, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's a really great point, right? So I think, the number one action that I heard in what you said is focus on what you're consuming.
Yes, 100%.
You're a product of where you spend your time,
yep,
and who you spend your time with.
Yeah, right.
I remember my mom saying, introduce me to your 5 best friends and I'll tell you who you are.
Or even not to go monetary, but how much money you make. Also, it just does. And birds of a feather, all those other quotes, fly with the eagles or peck with the chickens, And again, I have nothing against the people that are more followers, because we need them in this world. But I think that everybody has within them that greatness. They're born with it. You just have to unleash it, man. And
that's a really great point. And as leaders, I think one of the things, it's our responsibility.
Absolutely.
I think it's really about responsibility, because you brought it up in like how you do your coaching program, right? So where you dig deep with people, and where you were able to identify the 8-year-old Scott and the trigger that was there at 8 years old, and figure out how it's impacting your life today.
Right. It's still its head, Jeff. It's still there sometimes, but I'm able, because of the awesome coaching I got from Craig, I was able to really see that. And then I'm like, okay, now I know, there it is. You're there. That's awesome. But, let's keep taking action on what I want.
Well, and I'll tell you something. It's amazing. It's really critical. I found similar things, because I've done a lot of work like you have on me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You get to a point when you do enough of it where you can actually start doing the work on you yourself.
Right.
And what that looked like for me was I wrote this book.
Yeah. Great book.
And I was writing the chapter about being triggered.
Right.
And I really was digging in. I found it was a 5-year-old Jeff that was being triggered. And I've carried that with me for decades.
Right.
Every relationship.
Right.
Every job. My children. My ex-wife.
Right.
Is an ex-wife, by the way, because I was triggered.
Right. I remember you saying that on our podcast too, our interview. Yeah. Right.
And I think what people don't always look at is like all of these things that happen outside of work, they affect work.
Absolutely.
And then they happen inside of work, and then we get worried or angry or sad.
I love that you're saying this, Jeff, because everyone will be like, oh man, there's a certain thing at work. That's fine, because you do make your money to live your life. But 96.88%, I'm just making up that number, but it really is in their personal life and what's happening at home. It just comes to that. And I don't go there first. I just keep asking and asking and asking. And then again, really 100%, it ends up in what's going on in their personal life, that they pull it forward into their work life. And if you could help them find an action plan within their home or their personal, their fitness, or I'm a big believer in pillars in life where, like, I liken it to a jazz band, right? Like a lot of people say
Okay.
balance, and balance is zero, dude. You'll have balance when you're dead. I like harmony, man. So if you are your friends are the guitar, your finances are the drums, your work is the horns, and there's 8 different pillars, right? But if
Yeah.
one of them is out of tune, it sounds like crap. But what you have to do is you have to really work through those pillars and work through it. So I have my 8 pillars that each one of my clients we build upon and build upon and build upon. But the family pillar and their personal life pillar is really the pillar where we really usually dig down to, and then help them, give them actionable items to really level up.
Well, you know, it's really great to hear you say that, Scott. I know that's where you stand firmly entrenched, like your feet are in concrete on that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I notice about it in the world that I work in is where I know you're digging to get into that location with people.
Mm-hmm.
They often want to start at a more superficial level.
Always, bro. Always.
Are,
Including me. Including
right?
me. So yes, always. Sure.
So it's about building trust, right? And you know, I think
Absolutely.
you can have a lot of those concerns, worry, anger, stress, fear, just disappear when you learn how to create trust between people.
Right.
Right. And the very best and fastest way I know to do it is just to be open. And I'm going to say 2 other words: transparent and vulnerable. And the reason I say open, transparent, and vulnerable is because my last guest, Dwayne Canova, said he didn't like the word vulnerable, but he thinks of open and transparent. Well, listen, I think open and transparent leads to vulnerability. And when people see that you're a real person,
yeah,
it's easy to trust. When there's trust, some of that worry and stress starts dissipating.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just have
I'm
to
100% on board with you there. Yes.
Yeah. You just have to remember one thing about trust is that people are always looking for where it is in the breakdown phase.
Sure.
Right?
Right.
So where did you say you were going to do something and you're not doing it? Where
Right.
did you do A instead of B? Right?
Right.
And I think a lot of that, like when Gallup did their study, and you just look at the numbers, you can see like in 2009, the stress level was at 31% of employees. And
Sure.
in 2021, it's 44%.
Right.
So
we were in a crazy recession then, a crazy recession. So, yeah, absolutely. That's when my life turned around. Well, I hit rock bottom and turned around, but I can say it's just crazier that it's even higher now.
Right. Well, and the percentage of worry has mirrored that almost. It went from 30% to 40%.
Right.
So, when you say worry and stress, they're very analogous for a lot of people today.
Right.
The other stat I thought was really interesting is anger.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think as much about sadness, and maybe that's because in my eyes, if someone is feeling sad, you might notice it, but it's not necessarily something that they're outward with as much.
Right.
They might be a little withdrawn.
Right.
But with anger, they might be out.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, I look at that stress difference or whatnot from 09 to 21. And I'm a firm believer that a lot of it, where before a lot of the stress was more of a mental stress in our lives, things we were making up in our heads or things that haven't happened yet. But now, 09, Facebook was only 3 years old, right? Twitter was what, 2 years old, maybe a little older.
They were babies.
Right. So they were babies in their infancy, and our smartphones were nothing like they are now. And when you're looking, and the reason why I'm saying it's physiological, which we talked about this off camera, there's a dopamine release. And every time you pick up your freaking phone, man. And when you're doing that and you're seeing what's coming through that feed, that dopamine just released. You don't have the dopamine reserves for when you really need them, which leads to stress, anger, sadness that you've talked about. Right. So I think a lot of it has to do with that crack that your device in your hand that you need your fix on. And I'm guilty of it. I'm working to get away from it, but I just noticed that the more I get away, the less stress, less anger, and that will roll over into the workplace as well. And that's why
You
we
know,
were talking off camera about LinkedIn, why we like to be there, because there's a heck of a lot more positivity in leveling people up and helping people along than the other sites.
well, plus the information that I see come through LinkedIn is often not emotionally based the
Charged, right?
same way.
Yeah,
So you don't get
absolutely.
like a political charge on LinkedIn like you do on Facebook or Instagram,
Yeah,
right? You don't get,
exactly, Jeff.
you
Which
get to actually like these are the industries I'm interested in. This is the content. Yes, I have relationships with people. They want to know things like, why are you a foster parent, Jeff? And I'll tell them. But like I think it's really a great point.
that's
And
awesome you do
as
that.
we're
Yeah.
getting ready to go to closure on this episode, I just am curious, Scott, like what what's your experience today when you go on vacation?
When I go on vacation,
When you go on vacation, what does that look like for you and your family? And what do you talk to your clients about when they take one?
I say just go. I mean, have fun. Like Susan and I, we go and we take we're blessed to live in the sunny state of Florida, so there's vacation-y things to do within driving distance.
Right?
For even if it's just a day, and we unplug. I know that's cliche too, but we do unplug, um, and we will like not listen to anything business. We just put on music we love. When we're driving, we love our little road trips, and then when we're together and out there, or even if we were friends, I'm 100% present.
Mhm.
I absolutely love it. I do not like the lack of service that this world is providing now when you're going and spending money and not getting
Yep.
it. But it's something that I can look beyond it. I don't let it affect me. I'll let it affect me in the moment. But when I have clients that are going to unplug and go have a good time, we actually will talk about that. We generally have a session. It's funny you brought that up a day before their vacation, and we
Sure.
dig deep on, hey, I ask them, so what do you plan to do? What sites are you seeing? And then then I'll give them scenarios. If this comes up, how do you think you'd handle it? And we get them prepared, and it's such fresh in their mind, so they do go and enjoy their time off. Because I myself take a daily sabbatical of 15, 20 minutes. I'm lucky enough to live on this thing called the Atlantic Ocean. And, I have my times, and I really encourage the people that I coach to unplug every day with a daily sabbatical as well.
No,
So,
that's great. I love it, Scott. And I heard a couple things that I want to just point out. First off, I've heard you say 100% a couple of times.
mhm.
And so I just want to relate to that for a second because it's usually inside of relationships where what happens is people have this notion that, a relationship is 50-50.
Mhm.
And so if you're only putting 50% into the relationship,
Yeah,
then that's
I'm right
probably
there
what
with
you
you.
get out. And but it's really when you're fully committed, right?
Mhm.
It's what is your commitment to
Yeah,
that relationship? If you're
right,
an executive and you have employees, how committed are you to them? Are you fully committed? Because I know
right,
you want them to be fully committed to you.
right. Yeah,
What has them noticed that? Because by the way, that's a source of their daily stress and worry,
right.
right? So I really appreciate that. And the second thing is I'm a big advocate that you're able to take a 2-week vacation and have
Yes.
your business run without
Mhm.
you. Because you
Absolutely.
can have a business that grows with you and without you, whether you're an owner or an executive or a leader. And what that means is you've set your team up as leaders.
Right. Yeah.
You have leaders that are creating more leaders.
Right.
And when you want to actually retire and have that longer vacation,
Right.
you won't have this thing called an earnout that you may or may not get, depending on how effective you've been at setting up your leaders to create leaders in your organization.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I really leadership obviously is a responsibility, right? The ability to respond to every situation. That's where we really build people up, and with the time off, we're able to take responsibility for that time as well, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will take that time off and still stay on the clock. So, we make a commitment for that 2 weeks a year minimum that you're talking about. And and before, I also, part of my whole curriculum, if you will, is to find out when their next sabbatical is, longer term, and how we can work to
Right.
set up the company so you're not owning a job
Right.
versus owning, a business that runs. I'm blessed at Time to Shine today to have a solid team that when I leave, we're still serving people even when I'm
Yeah.
not on the clock, which is huge. And I'm
That's
right
what we
there with
are.
you on that.
Yeah, no, I can see we're very like-minded about that and really care about our clients and that they have that experience in their life,
Right,
in their
right.
family, with their kids, right? And so,
Absolutely.
in closing, is there anything you want to leave people with today?
You know, I want people that are maybe stuck in that anger, sadness, worry, stress. The one thing that I found that's really helped me out is a plus equals minus daily. And what I mean by that is, find somebody daily that is where you want to be, and work to pick their brain. Don't go in there. Make sure you have something maybe to give in return. Well, most people are happy. That's your plus. The equals are like you and I, Jeff, where I might reach out and we trade, right? And trade. And the minus is somebody that is wanting to get where you're at, seek them out and help them. So if you can do those three things every single day and do it with the intention, not the attention that you think you're going to get, then life works out. Because I say, don't take life too seriously. We're not making it out alive, right? So I just really want people to not shorten their life by living in stress, anger, sadness, worry, when they can really get around that by serving others with a plus equals minus. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? That's where I live.
Yeah, no, Scott. So just to kind of recap what I
Mhm.
heard, just and replay it for everyone to close us out. What I hear is that you're a real stand that people get to be their true selves, and that comes out when they have the opportunity to be around people that are bigger than them,
Mhm.
work with people that are their peers,
Mhm.
and bring people up that aren't expecting it.
Right. And if you really commit to doing that, worry, anger, stress, it doesn't really have a place to fit in because there's
Yeah,
service across the board, So
that's
yeah.
amazing. Yeah. So Scott, I love our friendship.
Me
I'm
too,
so
man.
grateful that we got to begin developing that, and that we have so much that we care about that I think people are interested in getting support on. And I want to thank you for joining the show today. This is really
This is
great.
awesome, man. This is fun. I love our energy. It's so
I
fun.
absolutely love that
Yeah.
too. And I will look forward to doing another one with you soon. And with that, everyone, I want to thank you for joining. I'm Jeff Cohen with Scott Ferguson, and have an amazing, amazing day. Be count onable.